All right. Good evening, Vacaville. This is the regularly scheduled meeting for the Vacaville City Council, September 24, 2024. May I have a roll call?
Council Agency Authority Member Stockton.
Here.
Silva.
Here.
Chapman.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Wiley. Here. Vice Mayor, Vice Chair Ritchie.
Here.
Mayor Chair Carley.
Here. If you're able, please rise for a moment of silence. Vice Mayor Ritchie, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Ready? Go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We will move on to the next item, which is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes tonight?
No changes, Mayor.
All right, so do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And approval of the minutes for the August 13, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Tonight we have several presentations. It is definitely important to recognize some of the various events that we have throughout the year. And I'm going to ask Justin Cole to come forward. This is the Water Professionals Appreciation Week proclamation, especially all things water in California. I think it's very important. Before I give you a chance to speak, I'm going to go ahead and read some of this proclamation. It'll help. Whereas water is the lifeblood of California, and without safe and reliable water, no community and no sector of the economy, from high tech to manufacturing to agriculture, can thrive or expand. And whereas now more than ever, amidst the recent drought and pandemic, the city of Vacaville is proud of the important role our essential workers play in making sure our community has safe and reliable drinking water and highly treated wastewater. And whereas California drinking water and treated wastewater meets some of the most stringent water quality standards in the nation, and our drinking water comes from nearby lakes, rivers, and wells, and travels through many miles of canals and pipes to reach our treatment facilities, where it is filtered, cleaned, tested, and distributed in a process carefully managed by trained water professionals. And whereas water professionals at water and wastewater agencies work 24/7 to plan, maintain, and upgrade their systems to improve the safety and resiliency of local water supplies for their communities, and local public water and wastewater agencies invest more than $25 billion a year on local water-related programs and projects that protect public health and the environment, improve local water supply reliability, provide water for fire protection, and protect against floods. And whereas thousands of essential water, wastewater, and recycled water industry professionals in the state dedicate their careers to keeping drinking water, recycled water, and treated wastewater safe and reliable for us in our use by Californians. So now, therefore, be it resolved that I, John Carley, Mayor of the City of Vacaville, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 5th through the 13th, 2024, Water Professionals Appreciation Week. Congratulations. Share a few words? Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Carley, council members, Assistant City Manager Megan Schmidt. I think you said it very well and eloquently, and just on behalf of me and my staff, we want to thank the council and you, Mayor Carley, for your continued support. We have over 100 industry professionals working for the City of Vacaville to maintain those essential services in our community, which is transmission, treatment of water, and collection and treatment of wastewater. I'd like to extend my gratitude and appreciation to our dedicated employees who serve our community, and this is an opportunity to recognize them, who sometimes we don't always see in the course of our day when they're doing their jobs. It's I don't want to say a thankless job, but one that definitely flies under the radar. And this is definitely an opportunity to recognize and appreciate those employees, our team members for the City of Vacaville. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say appreciate you and your staff for all the work, not only in the day-to-day operations, but even working with the challenges that we continue to face with the State Water Agency and helping us understand what threats there are and how we can be creative in the future. So thank you. All right. Next, we will have Fire Prevention Week proclamation for October 6th to the 12th. And I do believe Jill Childers is here. Is that right? Do I see Jill? There's Jill. Thank you, Jill, for all the work you do. So I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas Vacaville Fire Department is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting our city, and fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are in the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires cause more than 2,700 civilian deaths in the United States, and according to the National Fire Protection Association, and fire departments in the United States responded to 360,000 home fires. And whereas roughly 3 out of 5 fire deaths happen in homes with either no smoke alarms or with no working smoke alarms. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires almost in half. And whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. And whereas Vacaville residents should install smoke alarms in every sleeping room outside of a separate sleeping area and on every level of the home. I like this proclamation because it's a tutorial educational. I do appreciate that. And whereas Vacaville residents will make sure their smoke alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. And Vacaville residents should test their smoke alarms at least once a month. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And Vacaville first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas Vacaville residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas in 2024 Fire Prevention Week theme, smoke alarms make them work for you, effectively serves to remind Vacaville residents the importance of having working smoke alarms in the home. So now therefore be it resolved that I, John Carley, Mayor here in the City of Vacaville, and on behalf of the Vacaville City Council, do hereby proclaim October 6th through the 12th, 2024 as Fire Prevention Week. So thank you very much for all your service.
Vice Mayor Ritchie, and members of the City Council. The Vacaville Fire Department is teaming up with the National Fire Protection Association for this year's National Fire Prevention Week. This year's theme, Smoke Alarms, Make Them Work for You, it's our goal to educate our residents on how important smoke alarms are in their home. All residents should have a smoke alarm installed in every bedroom and in every area leading to bedrooms and on each level of their home. We also want residents to know that they should test their smoke alarms at least once monthly to make sure they're operational. Please know that you are all invited to our annual fire station open houses taking place on Saturday, October the 12th from 9 to 1. Each station will focus on different activities to promote fire and life safety education within our community. This year's activities include teaching children about home fire safety in our inflatable safety house. That'll be located at Station 71. A vehicle extrication demonstration and fireworks take-back event, again, fireworks take-back event at Station 72. We will be doing a dollhouse burn and hose lay demo that will be performed by our fire apprentices at Station 73. Our ladder truck will be out on display at Station 74, and children can come and decorate pumpkins if they'd like to at that station. And our very popular Junior Firefighter Challenge will be taking place at Station 75. The Vacaville Fire Department is also happy to announce our new poster contest that we're just starting this year. It's open to all Vacaville youth. The winners of the poster contest will be announced at Station 71 at 10 a.m. on Saturday, October the 12th. We hope that you all can join us for that activity, and I appreciate your time. And just one last thing, just a reminder, neighborhood cleanup is this Saturday, so I hope to see you all there too.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. It's been a pleasure working with you over the years, and so much of what happens in the fire service is prevention. And you've dedicated your career to this city and this community to make sure that that we're as safe as we possibly can, and a lot of it is education. So appreciate all your years of service and your work on this. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
for this next item, proclamation, I just learned that our staff person is not able to be here tonight, so we'd like to push that one to the next meeting, if you're
Sure.
agreeable.
That would be fine. And just remind everybody, cybersecurity will be that one that will be pushed. So Keith couldn't make it today?
Not make it today.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's a very important subject because there's a lot of things affecting us in the world of cybersecurity. So we'll move on to the National Community Planning Month proclamation. And with that, Payman Vivand, are you here? Yeah, there he is. Well, good evening, Payman. How are you? Well, let me go ahead and read some of this, and then you can respond. It starts with, whereas change is constant and affects all cities. How do you respond to that?
I agree.
Yes. I'll continue. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places. And whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live, and whereas community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the full benefits of planning require public officials and citizens who understand, support, and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation. And whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories. And the American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to recovery and how planners can lead communities to equitable, resilient, and long-lasting recovery. And whereas the celebration of National Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the Planning Commission and other citizen planners who have contributed their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Vacaville. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by the professional planners of the city of Vacaville and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, John Carley, Mayor of the City of Vacaville, and on behalf of the Vacaville City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2024 Community Planning Month. So congratulations for all your work.
All those things are true. So in December, I will have been here 26 years as a public servant in planning. And it's really nice to have that recognition from council. And it sort of reflects the dedication of the community development staff, but also I think dedication of citizens who take the time to be involved in planning. They don't always agree with us, and sometimes they're very clear about how much they disagree with us. But planning is built on that partnership, and this is an exciting time for development in Vacaville. There are a lot of opportunities for the public to weigh in on decisions that will affect how Vacaville looks in 5-10 years. So I'm looking forward to that, and we certainly do appreciate the council's continued dedication to supporting projects that will enhance livability in Vacaville. That is ultimately our goal, and so I appreciate the kind words and the proclamation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And It's one thing to be part of staff for all the years and working alongside of you, and I appreciate not only those relationships and friendships, but it is true, I don't know of a department that is seeing so much constant change. And certainly wins the award for the annual page count of the most things to read by this council comes from your department. But we really appreciate the service to the community. And the hardest thing is to bring a community along with the change. So appreciate all your hard work and dedication to you, the entire team. So thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on to item 6, consent calendar. And we have 3 items, A through C. Any member of the council, bless you, any member of the council or the public wishing to pull an item for discussion? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Motion approved. A second. Consent.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, we will move on to item 7. This is business from the floor. This is an opportunity for the public to address the council on any item that we have jurisdiction on that may not be on today's calendar. So I'll go ahead and open it up to the public for any comment. I'll go ahead and close business from the floor. That was unusual, right? We'll tell Aaron when he gets back that it must be that he's not here. And we have no public hearings tonight, so we'll go ahead and move on to 9A business. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This first item is a Community Development Block Grant Program Year Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. And tonight we have Tamara Colden, our Director of Housing and Community Services, to present the item.
All right, good evening, council members. Mayor Carley, tonight I'm here to present the Community Development Block Grant 2023-2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or CAPER. The Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, program is an entitlement program that's federally funded for cities and counties with the goal of developing viable urban communities, providing decent housing, and expanding economic opportunities. Since 1988, the city of Vacaville has been an entitlement city, receiving CDBG funds directly from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. The CDBG funds allocated to us locally are used to address priority needs identified in the City Council's 5-year consolidated plan. These goals include supporting youth through public services, improving public facilities and infrastructure, addressing the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. As an entitlement community for HUD's CDBG program, Vacaville is required to submit an annual CAPER that covers Vacaville's progress towards meeting those strategies in the consolidated plan. Our 2023-2024 accomplishments include support for youth activities provided by a Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club, 11 Kids, and Child Start Head Start. Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club provides services out of the Trower Center, and 11 Kids and Child Start share space over at the Mariposa Center. It also includes the Sidewalk Repair Grant pilot program for repairs identified by the city as a safety hazard. And then sidewalk improvements in CDBG target areas, including installation of ADA ramps, and then continuing programs that address the impacts of COVID-19, including homelessness outreach, emergency payments, and funding for food outreach or food support. And then also, again, funding for the new Brown Street Park and the Mariposa Center. The draft 2023 and 2024 CAPER has been made available for public review and comment as of September 8th. And we have followed HUD's process to provide the required 15-day comment period by publishing notices in the Vacaville Reporter in both English and Spanish. Additionally, the CAPER was made available on the city's website and emailed to agencies included in the plan and community partners. The notice was also posted at various sites, including but not limited to local libraries, community centers, and grocery stores. Some formatting and typographical error corrections have been made since the publication of the first version, and they are tracked and will be posted to the city's website after tonight. The public notice, again, along with the draft documents were made available on September 8th, and as of this meeting, staff in office have not received any comments. If approved tonight, any comments that are received here from the public or from council will be included in the CAPER and submitted to HUD as required by the September 30th deadline. With that, I'm happy to take any questions or comments from the council or the public. Happy to take any questions from the public or for council.
Yeah, thank you. Real quick, just, it's on our website, the information that says they have until September 30th, that's out there as well?
So they have, the public comment period is from September 8th till tonight.
Till tonight, okay. So it's over after tonight.
Correct.
Okay. I see no questions from the council. I'm going to open up to the public for any comment on this item. I'm going to bring it back to the council. So I don't believe that from here, any action item tonight?
So we would receive any comments, and then we would move forward with submitting the CAPER to HUD by the September date.
Okay. When will that, so once that is completed, when will that be made available to the public?
So once it's finalized and submitted, it'll be posted on the city's website. The final HUD submitted version will be posted on the city's website.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So motion to approve 9A.
So we have a motion to approve 9A. Second. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you very much, Tamara. I appreciate that. So we'll move on to item 9B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tamara will stay for this item as well, which is seeking direction on a home key program in partnership with MPI Homes and a reallocation of $2 million in ARPA funds. And Tamara has a brief
Me again. All right, good evening, Mayor Carley and council members. This item that I'm presenting is for council to consider directing staff to move forward with applying for home key funding in partnership with MPI Homes and for reallocating $2 million in American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA funds, that were set aside for affordable and homeless housing for a homeless housing development at 1050 Orange Drive or the Quality Inn. The Home Key program, created under Assembly Bill 83, is a statewide effort to expand housing for individuals experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Administered by the State Department of Housing and Community Development, Home Key has funded over 250 projects, creating over 15,000 units to date. Earlier this year, MPI Homes, a developer with extensive experience in the affordable housing realm, and with four home key projects out of Berkeley and Oakland, approached staff and expressed interest in partnering with the city to develop a home key project at the Quality Inn and Suites. After touring the site, they found it to be a good candidate for home key funding, which is expected to be released later on this year. Home key developments require a strong partnership between the local public agency, the developer, and nonprofit service providers. Together, they provide matching capital funds, operating support, and/or vital on-site services. In collaboration with MPI Homes, we are exploring how this model can be applied to convert the Quality Inn into studio units for individuals who are homeless or are at risk of homelessness, and using the leveraging the home key funds to achieve this goal. The proposed project envisions converting the hotel into 86 units of permanent supportive housing. This breakdown includes 30 units for individuals at risk of homelessness, 25 units for chronically homeless, 30 units for individuals currently experiencing homelessness, and then an on-site manager's unit. MPI Homes would serve as both the developer and property manager with supportive services provided by a specialized nonprofit partner. This approach ensures high standards in both property management and resident support. The project's total acquisition and rehab costs are estimated at about $24.4 million, with funding coming from various sources. $19 million approximately estimated from home key funds, $2 million in the ARPA funds, which is being requested to be allocated towards this project tonight, and then a little over $3 million in private mortgage funding. In terms of operational support, the project would rely on state home key subsidies and project-based vouchers that would be administered by the Vacaville Housing Authority. The Vacaville Housing Authority, or VHA, would be responsible for establishing a waiting list and accepting applications for the project. And this includes working with local service agencies who either provide services or support for those experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. Applications would then be prioritized first by preference, such as local resident, disabled, or veteran, and then by lottery. The VHA would then conduct eligibility determinations and then refer those eligible program or those eligible for the program to the project, and then the project would then determine suitability. The 2024 point-in-time count revealed that Vacaville has approximately 194 unsheltered and 39 sheltered individuals experiencing homelessness. This project, with its 85 units, will help address this need, although not all unsheltered individuals may need or accept a unit at the time that it's offered. This project is not only critical for addressing homelessness in our community, but it also directly supports key programs in the city's 2023 through 2031 housing element, which was developed with extensive public input to meet the city's housing needs. First, it aligns with Program H3, Variety of Housing Types, which aims to support the development of a range of housing options, including permanent supportive housing. In addition, the project supports Program HE32, Low Barrier Housing, which prioritizes immediate access to stable housing for people with special needs, including those experiencing homelessness. The goal here is to reduce barriers to housing and provide supportive services to help individuals transition out of homelessness. This project, with its on-site supportive services and low barrier entry, will fulfill this program's mission. And lastly, this development will count towards the city's regional housing needs allocation. Specifically, it contributes to the city's goals of creating 677 very low income units over the planning period, half of which of those units are designated for households earning 30% of the area median income. Producing units for this income level is challenging due to the need of substantial subsidies. But through home key funds and the project-based vouchers, this project will help make significant progress in meeting these RHNA needs. If approved, if City Council approves tonight's action, staff, along with MPI Homes, will begin preparing for the release of the home key notice of funding availability anticipated later this year. We will also begin drafting a funding agreement for the $2 million in ARPA funds, outlining key terms such as affordability restrictions, timelines, and performance metrics. In addition, MPI Homes will work closely with staff to further define the scope of the project as we prepare for the home key application. We will also be arranging for site visits for key city staff to tour MPI's current home projects and gain valuable insight about how those projects are run. And finally, the Housing Authority would initiate the request for proposal process for the project-based vouchers. So that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions and take comments and direction from council, as well as Ali Kashini with MPI Homes is here if there are any project-specific questions.
Yeah, thank you, Tamara, for the presentation. And again, I want to make sure that there's some clarity to this, and I know that I had asked you prior to tonight, what's the closest thing to a project like this versus how MPI operates? And maybe we can have MPI come down here as well. Could you kind of share current projects or programs we have in Vacaville and how this would compare?
Thank you. That's a great question. And I will answer from our perspective. And then if the developer has any additional information, I would like to invite them down to add to that. But currently, one of the projects in Vacaville that comes to mind is the Pony Express PEP Senior Housing Project. That project partnered with the Housing Authority, and we provide project-based vouchers for all of those units as well. That project has an additional 15 units that are specifically for those experiencing homelessness. The way that project works is Lutheran Services Lutheran Supportive Services provides referrals and support for those 15 units that are designated for homeless. All of the applications for the project, including those that are identified to fill the homeless units, come to the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority evaluates eligibility for the program and then forwards or refers those applications to the project, and then the management staff provides determines suitability for the project. So they collect the information, applications, income information, that sort of thing for their records before someone is placed in the project.
Thank you. Councilmember Silva.
Thank you for presenting this. I just have three questions, and maybe a couple of them go to MPI, so I'm just going to list them off. So the one question I had was just to clarify for the ARPA funding. Now, so that has to be spent by the end of this year, or it has to be dedicated or committed by the end of this year. If not, then we have to return those funds. So if this project doesn't follow through, is that funding still secure within our city budget, or do we have to return it if this project doesn't follow through?
So I will ask the finance director to correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to repeat the information incorrectly. But my understanding is the way that the funds will be reported will allow us to be able to spend those funds after the obligation date of the end of this year. Even if this project were to not move forward, the city would still be able to allocate those funds either to another project or spend them in another way. So the city would not lose those funds if the project does not move forward.
Okay, thank you. And then is there a way to allow, so for the at-risk designation category, would families who are ready to quote unquote graduate from Opportunity House, would those individuals have a priority of some sort to access those units, or is this a place that's not necessarily appropriate for where they're at?
So that could be something that could be looked at further as far as how council would like to establish the priorities for this particular waiting list. In general, the Housing Authority has local preferences established that apply to any of the waiting list that the Housing Authority manages. That includes a local resident preference. So that would be a preference for those who either currently live or work in Vacaville. Then after that, there's a working elderly or disabled preference, and then there's a preference for veterans. So if it were the desire of council to establish a preference in addition to that, they could, as the Housing Authority Board, look to do that. As an example, with the mainstream voucher program, the council, as the Housing Authority Board, established an additional preference or limited preference for those experiencing homelessness, and then that allowed the Housing Authority to work to establish MOUs with local agencies and accept referrals directly from those agencies. And something like that could be established for this as well, where the Housing Authority could work with Opportunity House for those families.
All right, thank you, and thanks for sharing light on a wide range of folks. Last question, I don't know if you can answer, it's great, otherwise MPI, but for those 3 different categories, are they going to physically be different, or will they be, so like at risk, for those who qualify for at risk for housing, will they be in one of those sections of that facility? Those who, those who are experiencing homelessness or chronic homelessness, are those going to be in a different designated area? I say that because I imagine in other programs, sometimes there's some type of conflict between folks. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I would like to invite Ali with MPI Homestown to further clarify how that what that looks like in their current project.
Good evening.
Council members and staff. My name is Ali Kashani. I'm the CEO of MPI Homes. And Ms. Colden is doing such a good job, I didn't think she would need me to come up. We may run across fair housing issues if we do that segregation. We need to check with fair housing consultants and see if we can do that segregation, but we may not be able to.
Okay, more to come. All right, thank you.
Surely.
And since you're already up here, before I go to Councilmember Chapman, can either one of you explain how this project as proposed would be either similar or different than your existing programs, where your MOUs within Alameda County may require you to just accept anyone versus if we use our project-based vouchers, it falls in line with an application period and how we handle anyone who may be experiencing homelessness. Can you share the difference? Because I know that this was an issue.
That's really a very good question. None of our current 4 projects have project-based vouchers from the local housing authority. We have received capital operating reserves, and we put them in a bank account, and we draw down. PBVs basically operate as your ongoing operating support source. And the home key regulations require that the residents be referred to us by coordinated entry system that every county has. So this program will be different, and I heard Ms. Colden saying that your housing authority PBV's process will probably preempt, not preempt the CES referrals, but those who are referred through the CES have to go through the vetting by the housing authority, which we think will serve this community much better than the system that we have in Alameda County.
Great, thank you. Just want to make that clarification. Councilmember Chapman.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation this evening. I had several questions, and they've all been answered except for the one, and that is, what do you, if the council should approve the home key project this evening, what does the timeline look like for becoming operational?
Surely. The state has announced that they will issue the notice of funding availability, the NOFA, for home key in the month of November. Then once they announce, they allow sometimes 60 to 75 days for developers to submit applications. And then they take 90 to 120 days to make awards. And once they make an award, it takes another 90 to 120 days for the state to fund and close the acquisition of the project. So if I just take that, starting in November, 3 to 4 months, plus another 3 to 4 months, plus another 3 to 4 months, we're talking about 9 months before, 9 to 12 months maybe before we close on the acquisition. So November, sometime in the fall of next year, acquisition can close. Then we have to do some remodeling. That will, we have to, while we're waiting, we usually draw the plans and submit to the city for a building permit. So that process, we don't wait. So once we close, we start construction. In fact, we also do the bidding in that process. And construction, in this case, this property was remodeled, just finished last year before it went through some financial challenges, I heard. And construction, we think 6 months. So we're now, if my schedule makes sense, we are looking at fall of next year closing, spring of 26 opening.
Thank you.
Really?
Okay.
Vice Mayor Ritchie.
Thank you so much. And never a time, myself and Jeanette Wiley, we all had the opportunity to meet with you on Zoom, so you answered a lot of questions. What makes us different, like SB 83, throughout California, other cities is the Wild West. And I was able to be very kind of direct with that question, how it really brought a lot of clarity that Vacaville will be different, and we addressed it right there in the presentation. Instead of home key and here you go, and just kind of blinded walking into the rooms, the ability for us to have a lot of say-so and give guidance. Now, there's a 1 to 2 years, but the slide says 1 to 3. I thought home key was 1 to 2 years. And on year 3, we had the ability to implement our plan, but now the slide says year 1 to 4. So that's what I want clarification on. But the ability for us to get in there and set up the preferences where we're talking for elderly, veterans, and make sure that we ensure the people. I think the program is great. The fact that I had a conversation with Ashley Banta, but we have that population. Safety was always a concern. Being by my district, we have a large group of individuals that are old, elderly. I want to make sure they're safe. But the interesting part about it is these people are already in the community. The amount of people that will be occupying this development are already here. So this thing about, oh, are they going to be safe? They're already in Vacaville. But to put them into a shelter position that's better than the streets, it's a win-win. So I appreciate the ability for us to really lean in and ensure the safety of Vacaville by having the guidance on the vouchers and who gets in and at what stipulations. So thank you.
Thank you. Would you like me to respond?
Yeah, I thought home key was the first 2 years was the Wild West. Like whoever has the voucher gets in, and then we can impose our will. But is it year 4 or year 3?
No, we get to screen who gets into our projects. So there's referral made by the county, and we get to screen them.
But you guys get to, but we can't add our.
So in addition to us, which I'm glad to hear, through the PBVs, you can actually assign, we're going through a lease-up of a PBV project in Oakland that we assign a priority for those who live or work in Vacaville.
Okay.
So right there.
But from year 1 or year 4?
From the start,
okay.
From the get-go. And it continues throughout. So
awesome.
as we have turnover, we go through the same process.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a good question. Just for clarification, is we can set our rules as a housing authority, since there are vouchers,
Yes.
just like we do for anyone else.
Correct. So I brought up the slide I think that you're referring to. So in this case, we're just explaining how this operating subsidy would be covered. So we're estimating that from year 1 to year 3, the home key funds would be the operating subsidy, and then years 4 through 24, the vouchers would provide the operating subsidy. However, from the time the project opens, it will follow the process of having the project-based vouchers there. Applicants would come through the housing authority first, and then go to the project force.
Thank you.
Just because I don't mean to conflict with Ms. Colden said, but our underwriting starts the PBVs from year 1, and we'll put them in reserve and use the state money first, and then use that. So it's clear. If you're thinking about deciding on this project, I wanted to make sure the facts are all above board.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you for the information. I just have a couple of questions. Just for information, when you talk about the sheltered homeless, what do you mean by the sheltered homeless? Because you had the unsheltered and the sheltered.
Yes, so sheltered means they're not on the street. So they're not on the street in the car. They're either in a shelter, or somewhere where they're not sleeping on the street.
And for us, the shelter is just like Mission Solano or something. We don't have any shelter per se.
Well, for
Because
Vacaville,
Pony Express is not considered sheltered.
no, that would be Opportunity House is the shelter here in Vacaville.
Okay. So if they're in an opportunity house, then they would be counted as sheltered homeless.
Correct.
But if they're living in their car, they would not be.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Then the second question, so you have gotten 2 of these grants from the state before, so.
4.
4? Oh, so you feel pretty comfortable that your chances are likely to get it with when it opens up in November?
Well, we've been successful every time we've applied. What will happen in the future, I don't know. But we know the staff who work at that level, the regulations, they reach out to us for comments for the next round. We will be ready when they announce the NOFA. We'll be ready. The day they open the door to submit, we'll submit. That's how we've been successful.
Okay, and then this project will be the largest of your 4, is that correct?
Actually, we're buying and closing soon on an extended stay America, which is 149 units. We haven't closed yet, but we have the funding to close on it. And this will be the next big one.
And the other ones are smaller, half the
They're
size?
about 50 units, the other ones, yeah.
Okay, thanks. And then just for how it's set up, since you're converting a hotel into apartments, will there be like a communal kitchen down the way, or is each one won't have their own kitchen?
Both. So we will put a kitchenette in every unit. And remember, this hotel has 114 units now. We're reducing it to 85. That lost units will be converted to dining hall, community room, counseling offices, those kind of amenities that the hotel doesn't provide right now. And so the space, physical space will be there, and programming will be for that, for communal dining, community events, whatever the needs of the residents are.
All right, and then I think on one of the slides, so one full-time manager lives there, but then there's how many other counselors come in there during the days?
So the requirement by the state is that for every 20 residents, we have 1 full-time counselor. So there will be 4. There will be, during daytime, there will be 1 full-time security person. After work hours and on the weekends, there will be 2. So there will be 4 counselors, 1 resident manager, 1 full-time maintenance person. There will be grounds staff who maintain the grounds. So there will be plenty of staff on the site at all times. And then when they're gone, after hours, there will be security both at the building and around the building.
All right, thank you. Those were my questions.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for answering the questions when we were able to meet. I also had an opportunity to speak with someone from Crew, and they actually were very supportive of the project as well with the conditions that were just discussed. My question is, out of the 86 units, do we have any idea how many of the folks that were contacted in the PIT count would qualify for those 86 positions?
That's a good question, Councilmember Stockton. Unfortunately, at this moment, I'm not sure how many of those that were counted during the PIT count would be approved or would be how many of those would be eligible for this project at this time.
When might we know more information about whether they would or would not?
From the Housing Authority standpoint, we would be able to determine eligibility once an application is received and the Housing Authority reviews the application. When we talk about eligibility, what we're looking at first is to make sure they're income eligible, so make sure they don't make an income more than 50% of the area median income based on household size. Make sure they're not ineligible for some type of previous program violation, like they were assisted under a previous housing authority and maybe they owe money or something like that. And then we would, our housing authority does a background check looking at the last 5 years to ensure there's no violent criminal or drug activity in the person's past. And then if all of that is approved and the background comes back, then we would determine them eligible for the program and then refer them to the project to determine suitability.
So will there be a coordinated effort within the city, including crew, to assist our local homelessness with filling out those applications to qualify for these potential units?
Yes, so whenever the Housing Authority is looking at opening any wait list, whether it's for the normal voucher program or when we coordinate opening the wait list for this program, we reach out to VSS or Vacaville Solano Services Corporation. We reach out to the Family Resource Center. We do also partner with the county's continuum of care and let them know that we would be receiving referrals, and we can also reach out to crew and let them know, hey, we're going to open this wait list. Make sure that anyone you're working with, either through VSSE or FRC or directly to our office, you can refer them there, and we can start looking at accepting applications.
And so if our local homeless individuals, once we exhaust the list of eligible folks from Vacaville, will the remaining vacancies or units that are available, will those go to the county before they go outside of the county?
So the way that the waiting list will be organized is first by preference, then by lottery. So what that means is those applications with the highest points for the preferences that they qualify for would all be ordered, and then if they have the same weight, so for instance, if 3 applications are both from local residents and the head of household is disabled, those would all have the same point value, then those would be ordered by a lottery. So those 3 would be placed by lottery in a certain order. So first, we would assist those applications with the highest points based on the local preferences they qualify for first. Again, our local preferences are being a local resident, meaning you either live or work in Vacaville. And then there's what we call a working preference. And what that means is someone working or elderly or disabled would get a point value to their application. Then after that, there would be a point value for anyone who is a veteran, and the applications will have a total score based on those points. So for instance, if someone is not a local resident, they're not a veteran, they're not disabled, their application would not have any additional points on it. And so their application would fall further down on the list than someone who has those additional points.
Okay, and you mentioned that we set the priorities for the preference points. When would be the next time that that comes before council to have that conversation about what those preferences are and the point values that are assigned to them?
Okay, yeah, so as the Housing Authority Board, the council approves the administrative plan for the Housing Authority that includes those, which includes the preferences that we place on the waiting list. So if it's the desire of the Housing Authority, of council as the Housing Authority Board to establish a separate preference list for this wait list, because as a board, you do have the ability to do that, then staff can work on providing an amendment or a edit to the administrative plan that would come back before the council as the board, and then it would be submitted to HUD as the newly approved plan for the Vacaville Housing Authority.
And then the last question is, I know that this is kind of on the border of 2 districts. Can you tell me what district this project actually lands in?
I believe this is in District 1.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Stockton, if I may just add to Ms. Holden's comments. I believe the PIT uses 20% AMI income to measure whether you're eligible. So if your income is at or below 20% of AMI, then you count as homeless as low income. On the list that Ms. Holden mentioned, we check. Sex offender list is another one we check that I wanted to add to her comments. And then you answered the question about the county. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, registered sex offenders cannot be a part of the Section 8 program. That's just required. That's just HUD requirement.
Just really quick before I open up to the public, can you confirm that this is not any sort of a drop-off shelter?
Thank you for the question. Yes, this is not a shelter or transitional housing. This is permanent supportive housing.
And I've had the experience over the last few months to attend several meetings with you, with individuals that are currently precariously housed with vouchers that may be looking to go to another location. Does this afford them the opportunity to potentially transition from one location to another, or would this be a new application?
Thank you for that question. If someone currently has a housing choice voucher and would like to live in a project that is project-based, they would no longer have a housing choice voucher. If they wanted to live in that unit, they would then be covered under the project-based voucher program. It does allow for the project-based voucher program does allow for after 12 months. If somebody chooses, they could request a housing choice, a tenant-based voucher from the Housing Authority that would allow them to seek housing somewhere else. But if they already have a voucher, they would be giving up that tenant-based voucher if they wanted to live in a project-based unit.
Appreciate your knowledge on this. How many unused project-based vouchers do we have here in Vacaville?
So HUD allows a housing authority to project base up to 20% of their annual allocation of vouchers available. Currently, the Vacaville Housing Authority has about a little under 200 vouchers that we've earmarked to be available for project-based units that can be allocated towards projects that are eligible.
And what's the average length of time would you anticipate from an application to supportive permanent housing? Assuming this is in play, how long does it take for someone to receive the process, go through the background, make sure it's been the lottery, everything that follows our rules? What would that look like?
Yeah, so whenever we're opening a waiting list, we have to provide the public at least 10 business days notice that the list will be opening. It's up to the Housing Authority whether or not they open the list for a certain amount of time, or if we want to accept a certain amount of applications. So we really work with the project to determine what would be the best way to handle accepting applications from the list. So if we open it for a period of time because we think there might be a high demand, we usually look at a 2 to 3 week period to accept applications before we close the list. Once the list is closed and we are preparing the list and ordering it in order to start inviting people in, we usually give about a 3-week notice from the time we send the invites to the appointment date. That allows time for the applicants to receive the notice and then prepare any documents that they need to bring into their appointment, or if they have somebody that's assisting them through that process, it allows enough time for them to coordinate that in order to come in and complete the application process. Once an application is complete and the Housing Authority has received all the documentation needed, we do start the background check, which really is the longest piece of that. Sometimes it can take 48 hours to come back. Sometimes it can take 2 weeks to come back. So it just depends on how quickly the Housing Authority receives the background. And then from there, we schedule like an orientation. We call them briefings, but an orientation to the program. And then once during that time, they sign their voucher with us, and it's like their contract with us about the rules that they're expected to follow under the Housing Authority program. And then once we have all of that complete, they would be referred to the property. Whenever we're working with a project, especially during the lease-up process, we work hand in hand to time all of that so that we are referring a number of applicants to the project when they're ready to start leasing up for occupancy. And we coordinate that with a project also because when we're looking at filling 85 units all at one time, that's an extensive prep time or lead time before with the Housing Authority conducting all of those eligibility appointments so that when the project is ready for people to move in, they've got their list of people that have been approved, and that's literally what they're doing moving in.
Generally, we start that process as soon as construction starts.
Okay, and my final question is how do you handle if a tenant is going to agree to terms of rules, how do you address when it's unruly, right? How does the housing authority address it? And then you, sir, how does your experience in handling this, how do you address it?
We have, we get updated rental lease agreement, and right now ours is about 16 pages, small font. That includes all the house rules. And then we make sure the residents, we give an orientation, they understand what the house rules are, what they're signing. And when there is a breach of the lease, they get a written notice and a meeting. And right now, the system we have is they get up to 3 opportunities to, if they break any provision of the lease. And after that, we begin eviction.
On the Housing Authority side, we would be getting these notices of lease violation from the project. And it is a violation of the Housing Authority rules to be in violation of your lease, whether that means activity going on at the unit, whether that means non-payment of rent. And the Housing Authority would start its administrative process to try to bring that household into compliance. So that starts with what we call a resolution conference, where we meet with the participant and let them know that they are in violation of program rules, and depending on how egregious that violation is, we may have them sign basically an agreement that they've been put on, that we've gone over those rules and that they know that they have broken those rules, and that if it happens again, then that could lead to termination from the program. If there's continued violations of the family obligations on the Housing Authority side, then again, we would start a termination process in which we would notify them that they're being notify not only the participant, but the manager or owner that they're being terminated from the program. We do have to provide them an opportunity for an informal hearing. So if the participant chooses, they could request an informal hearing, which is where the Housing Authority and the participant meet with a third neutral party. And the Housing Authority presents the reasoning for termination. The participant could present either their rebuttal to that termination, and then that hearing officer would make a final determination of whether or not the Housing Authority properly followed its process leading up to the termination, the proposed termination. And then if that decision is upheld, then the tenant would have the participant would be provided with a certain amount of time to leave the property. So we make sure we give them enough time and enough warning to know that this eventually is coming, and then what their opportunity is to request an informal hearing if they choose.
Okay, great. And I would ask that same protocol exists today in Vacaville with our other programs?
That is correct. That is the process of the Housing Authority and all of its programs.
Great.
If I may just add, our protocol is, we've found in most cases, people don't want to have an eviction on their record. We help them move on from the property. Once they have had 3 lease violations, we sit down with them and say, an unlawful detainer is being prepared. You either want to go through this legal process, or we will help you relocate somewhere else. And our service providers do that work for us.
Great, thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead now and open up to the public for any comment. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, after you. Good evening.
Rule my life anyway. Good evening. I have a couple of questions. Should I get a question and answer? Should I just ask my questions?
Just ask your question, and we'll have staff answer.
Okay. Just a couple preambles. One is I want to just thank you all for considering this on behalf of the faith community that is even coming before the city. Mayor Carly, you invited me to be part of the homeless roundtable 8 years ago, and we've been talking about having something like this. So that is just outstanding. The second accolade is that this is the first time I've been to a city council meeting that agenda item 9A came up 20 minutes after the meeting started. So congratulations on that. My questions, and it was prompted, one of them from Councilmember Silva, about families. We have couples and families, and it sounds like this project is being earmarked for singles only. Now, can a studio apartment be used by a couple, a married couple that's homeless? Can they go in and use that? It sounds like from the counseling assignment of 1 per 20, and you're going to have 4 of them, that this is already set up for having only a single person going into each unit. So can you have more than one person stay in a unit if they're a couple? Second, can you consider, with the 114 redone units down to 85, making some of them 2-bedroom, 1 or 2 bedrooms for families that are in this situation? Or considering having some of the adjoining rooms in the hotels be set up so that, yeah, they can convert 2 of these to a family arrangement. And the last observation and question, I would just think it'd be nice to, if you have it, to have detail on the $3.1 million of private financing. Who's the borrower? Who's the lender? What are the terms? Who are making the payments? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Alicia Minion. And yes, there's a great need for housing, especially for those individuals in the extremely low range of the RENA categories. And the questions I have, these are not meant to be critical to the applicant, but I'm going to ask some tough questions, because my main concern is, what I want to know is, what are the controls in place to prevent any waste, fraud, or abuse? We have public money coming from the city, it's federal funds, ARPA. We've got state home key money coming in, and then there's money that's being counted on by a private lender. And the goal is to make sure that the residents that are being housed, they meet the goal and the objectives that are set forth in the staff report. So we have some units for homeless, at-risk homeless, et cetera. So number one, the applicant, how do you make money in this business? Is there any way that you make money that gives you the incentive not to select the most needy individuals to live in the units, to be selected? So is there any possibility where you're really, the primary factor, despite the preferences, is really who's going to make me the most amount of money to keep for this project? Because the project has to generate some revenue. If it doesn't generate enough revenue, my other question is, what happens? Can we get a pro rata share of our ARPA money? What happens if we give $2 million in ARPA money and it folds in 8 years? Then what? We just, that's not a good return on our investment. So we need controls to make sure that we get that return on investment, which is the at-risk community. We want to make sure that benefit survives that 55-year restriction. I also want to know, is there a regulatory agreement? What mechanisms to ensure to enforce that the units are being rented to the appropriate categories? What's the penalty? What's the enforcement mechanism? Who's monitoring? Is there a regulatory agreement? Who's going to monitor it? Who's going to enforce it? How do we know that the residents, they say they meet the categories, and then 2 years later, everybody's rents go skyrocketing? Because in HUD, there's pretty broad range of rental ranges. You can, I don't know if there's a cap, but what's the cap? How do we know? Because there's a big minimum and maximum rental range that fits into a particular category. And, you could end up phasing out some of the people that need this project the most. So I really want to know, what are the internal controls?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions.
But there's...
Your time has expired. There's a lot of questions to answer there, so we'll try to get to the best of them. All right.
Okay, but I know, okay, but it's not that busy tonight, Mayor.
It's okay. It's
And these
okay.
are really good. I have two more
Okay.
things.
It's okay. I think we can get to the essence of a lot of those questions. So let's try and
Okay.
get to those. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments from the floor or questions?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Just a reminder of something I brought up in the past, and I really like this concept a lot. Unfortunately, in here, my phone won't load quickly enough to give you the name, but a reminder that a political colleague to our governor made off with $40 million from Home Key Project and then disappeared to the Virgin Islands, and so I don't know what the latest update is. So my question is, we know this has happened where they've embezzled the money from the state and then state didn't pursue it. I'm hoping, and maybe you could address it, maybe not, that nothing like that happens here in Vacaville. The idea that Alicia brought up, that's a lot of money to invest. I know for our town it is, maybe not for LA. But the security of the taxpayer funds that are going into it, again, I just freaking love this program. The idea of it's fantastic, but it would be bad if we had a black eye. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment on this item and bring it back to the council. And I would ask staff and whether you can answer the majority of those questions and maybe we can get to them. We'll start with some of the regulatory and the funding. I do believe that there was the private mortgage financing, who's on the hook for it. My understanding is the $2 million is what we had allocated from ARPA. This would actually be a formal application to allocate that fund to this program. Where do those other funds come from?
Thank you. I can, as far as the ARPA funding, I can answer that. And then I'd like to invite Ollie back up to answer some of the additional questions with the private funding. With the ARPA funding, we would work on a funding agreement between the city and the developer that would outline terms, including timelines, sorry, let me get back. I have my notes on this. But we would develop a funding agreement that would cover some of the items that were brought up as concerns. Not only a funding agreement for the ARPA funds, but for the project-based vouchers, the Housing Authority has to execute what's called a housing assistance payment contract with the property owner that covers the requirements for the owner under the project, including how the units are kept, what they're required to provide to tenants. It outlines requirements or established requirements for rent increases, how those have to be approved by the Housing Authority. It establishes what the Housing Authority would pay on behalf of a client for the unit. So there is the funding agreement that would cover the ARPA funds, and then there's the HAP contract that would be executed between the Housing Authority and the project owner to further establish requirements or expectations on the project. And then there would be a regulatory agreement that would cover the affordability, establish the affordability levels, and establish the monitoring parameters. So the Housing and Community Services Department does have several regulatory agreements with several projects throughout the city, and it's our department's responsibility to monitor those and collect documentation on those to ensure that the projects are charging the correct rent and that they're operating under the terms of the regulatory agreement. So there would be several ways that the city would be able to monitor the project and ensure that the units are being kept in the proper condition and that the rents that are being charged are appropriate and what's agreed upon between the project and the city.
There was a
comparison to ensure that the rent being requested is in line with comparable units and types, comparable units in the area. And then any increase would come from the housing authority, so it would not impact the tenant. The tenant's portion of rent would only change if the tenant's income changed. If the tenant has no income to go towards their share of rent and utilities, then the housing authority would cover the full amount. So I don't believe there's an incentive to choose applicants based on their income or what they're able to pay, because all of that is established by the HAP contract with the housing authority.
And ultimately, then, us as the housing authority would have control over those types of rent increase applications by an MPI, or
correct,
if we were to move forward.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. I think you've answered the majority of the questions. It is an interesting. Do you have something to say? Oh, that's right. There was the multi-unit.
Yes.
In other words, sometimes we do see people who have experienced homelessness who are couples. How does this work?
Yep, so the housing authority has to ensure that a unit is not overcrowded. And the way that overcrowded is defined as 2 people per sleeping area plus 1. So in a unit that is considered a studio unit, that means that the unit would be considered overcrowded if there were 3 persons in that unit. So if they are all studios, that would allow for couples or single persons to be placed in that unit. As far as whether the opportunity exists to either develop the units in a way that it could allow for a family, or develop units that are 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, I would have to leave that up to the developer to see if that could be a possibility, if that is a possibility when we look at developing these units.
And I would suspect that would be something that us, as we move forward, we could further develop what this might look like for us, because these are our vouchers.
That's correct. So we could work with a developer if that is something that we want to look at. That's something that we could work with the developer on and let them know that this is the desire of the council and of the city to provide for units that either can become family-size units or ensure that there are some family-size units in the project.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Stockton.
Really good job tonight. You have been on point with this, and I'm very impressed. And great questions, Mr. Wells. I think that if that can't be incorporated into this project, I would be interested to see in future projects if that need could be met as well. You know, we have sometimes not had as I guess positive of a discussion as it relates to some of these projects, and I myself have been very critical of some of them in the past. However, I'm very grateful at the lengths that you went to look into this project in this area to find a safe solution to homelessness that encompasses so much of what Vacaville really needs right now. I'm very optimistic about what you've proposed tonight and what you're planning on doing, and I definitely think that this is something that could meet a real need that we have in our city to help some folks that have been waiting a long time. And I know it's not going to happen overnight, but I'm very supportive of what I have heard so far. It makes me feel better to know that crew is on board in our Vacaville Police Department are also looking at this as an opportunity to help some of the folks that they interact with day in and day out. So I see this as a viable solution to fit a portion of our unhoused community, and I'm very grateful for the work that you and your staff and that you have done as well to bring this project to us tonight. So I'm ready to make a motion when everybody else has said whatever they need to say.
Yeah, you can go ahead and make a motion.
I can?
Yeah, go ahead and make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Second.
So we have a second over here already. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I appreciate that this is the first in the process. This is a step forward. I think the city has high expectations of you, sir. And it is understood that this is different than what you've done in Alameda County, and that we're following a process that hopefully will achieve that need for what permanent supportive housing is. And that is to help people truly have that hand up. And so hopefully we can explore some of these opportunities and ensure that we are treating our community with that dignity and making sure that there's no waste, fraud, and abuse. So thank you so much. I know it's a lot of questions. You did a great job tonight, so thank you. Councilmember Wiley, did you want to share something?
Yes, before you exit, I had one other thing I wanted to say. So last weekend, I attended a dinner for Sustainable Solano, and I was seated at a table with a woman from Sassoon. And when she found out I was a council member with the City of Vacaville, she was so thankful and so happy with our housing department, because her sister, who's disabled and homeless, had a fire in her apartment and had no place to go, and she just could not say enough nice things about Vacaville's housing department and how they helped her help her sister, and did everything they could to work with her. And then her disabled homeless sister was in an apartment and safety. So I just want to thank you for all your work on that.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to item 9C.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This last business item is the naming of city-owned property for the Rico family, and we have Rika Guidry, Program Manager, to present this item.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. As mentioned, tonight I'll be presenting the naming of the city-owned property for the Rico family. So just some background, the naming, dedication, and sponsorship of city facilities and acceptance of donations policy was adopted on January 29, 2009. The primary purpose of this policy is to establish a clear process and set criteria for considering requests related to the naming or renaming of city facilities. It is designed to ensure that requests made by City of Vacaville residents, business owners, or property owners adhere to these policies and reflect the values and contributions of our community members. Specific to this request, priorities to be considered are as follows: historic names, places, and feature names, individuals, groups, or organizations. Now, the criteria for naming a city facility based on those priorities mentioned include names of persons, groups, or organizations having a long-standing affiliation with the city of 10 or more years, and efforts have enhanced the quality of life and well-being of city residents, contributed to the preservation of the city's history or culture, have made meritorious contributions to the city or its residents, or have contributed to the acquisition, development, or conveyance of land. On October 10th, 2023, a request was made by Councilmember Chapman to consider naming a city facility for the Rico family. Through its research, staff discovered that since 1924, when 15-year-old John Rico left Vacaville High School to begin a lifelong career at the community's newspaper, the Vacaville Reporter, the Rico family has documented, contributed to, and has been an untiring supporter of the city of Vacaville as it has changed and evolved. In 1942, John and Grace Rico bought the Vacaville Reporter, and in 1973, they turned over the reins to their son, Richard. By then, Richard had been involved in all aspects of the newspaper and led its growth from a weekly publication to a 7-day daily newspaper. He left his personal mark on the paper, writing a popular weekly column, At Ease, for nearly 70 years. In the 1990s, Richard Rico also sketched, drew, and painted still lifes and large landscapes that were used for public displays, charitable causes, and many events in Vacaville. Richard Rico eventually sold the Reporter in 2002 and retired. However, he continued to write a weekly column for another 20 years, writing about community events, as well as marking the passing of many of the community's notable residents. In 2023, Richard Rico authored a book, Follow My Lead, which encompasses a collection of columns selected from more than 3,000 that he wrote himself. Upon the release of the book, it was dedicated to the Vacaville Museum. During the centennial year for the Reporter in 1983, Richard Rico created and gifted the Main Street 3-flag monument to the Vacaville community at the corner of Main Street and Davis Street, leaving space in the center for a tree to commemorate the holidays. For more than 40 years, residents, visitors, and vendors have gathered for the annual Merriment on Main tree lighting event to commence the holiday season, which continues to serve as a holiday staple for the community. Richard and his wife, Lisa, remain active in the community. His sons, Lane and Barry, her daughter, Jennifer, 7 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild make up the Rico family. Most still call Vacaville home. The Rico Monument meets the policy criteria for naming a city-owned facility with the family's long-standing affiliation with the city for over 10 years of significant community service involvement and contributions. So to recognize the Rico family and the decades of contributions the family has made to the community, it is proposed to install a plaque on the concrete railing at the flag monument location alongside the current Merriment on Main signage. This new sign will feature a QR code that directs mobile users to the city website, where they can discover more about the Rico family's history and contributions to Vacaville. As for anticipated expenditures, since the request was originated by the city through the City Council, the city would be responsible for all direct and incidental costs associated with the proposed Rico Monument plaque. The total estimated cost is approximately $300. Staff recommends to approve the naming of the city-owned property after the Rico family located near the intersection of Main Street and Davis Street. This concludes my presentation. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I know there's going to be plenty of comments. I don't know if there's any questions as it comes before us, and I see no questions at the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and open up to the public for anyone who wishes to comment.
And staff, I'm Diane Barney, and I had the privilege of working for the Reporter for 25 years. This is a great honor. This family should be honored. They have made amazing contributions, and anybody who's too young to know what value the newspaper brought to this community, the Reporter was the original influencer. Okay. Really capturing the history of this community and engaging, entertaining, informing, and doing all those things. It was my honor to work for them at a time when journalism was thriving, and we had the opportunity to teach young journalists just out of college what it meant to be responsible and to have integrity. That's what this family means to Vacaville, so I encourage you to support them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Come on, Lisa.
So staff, Richard was feeling a little under the weather, so he had to leave. So I have a very brief statement from him, his words. In the more than 70 years that the Rico family published the Reporter, Vacaville was always its beating heart. We built the monument in 1983, the paper's centennial year, and dedicated it to the people who supported the newspaper through the years. By design, it also began the Merriment on Main holiday tradition. Recognizing it all as the Rico Monument means more than we can say. We thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to the council for any council comments. Councilmember Silva.
So since I remember, we always got the newspaper. My dream was to be a paper boy. In class, they'd always have the newspaper come out. We'd always, read it, dissect it. My favorite was like sports page, but then you read these editorials and you start getting a glimpse of different perspectives of the world, not just our community, but our world and our piece in it. And it really was a way to help bring our community together, a way for us to communicate. When I need to look for jobs, I go to the jobs ad. So now, things have drastically changed. Now we have a lot of different information out there. As a science professor, sometimes it irks me to just, hear a lot of folks spit off whatever they want. And it just really now, just reflecting back throughout my 40+ years of life, how important local journalism is, how important that freedom of speech is. It keeps us honest. It keeps us open-minded, and it allows us to find ways to constantly unite as one community on how we grow and sustain the community that we all are part of. And that is a living document throughout the history of our local history and what shaped us and the American opportunity, the American dream that many of our families, including us, have been honored to live that legacy and leave that legacy for the next generation. So I'm very excited to be in this position to do my part to make sure that that legacy is left, not just for the family and the contributions, but for the meaning of community and how that particular space will always be the center of and heart of our city of Vacaville.
Councilmember Chapman. I'll save you till last because I know I'm reserving the motion for you because
Not only motion, I can speak last.
I know you'll speak last. I'll come back to you. Then. I'll make sure of that. Councilmember Wiley.
I also really appreciate the effort and all the work from the Rico family to start the reporter and have it going for so long. It was always important to read the newspaper and see what's going on, and to go visit the reporter offices with my reporter newspaper and education week and use it during schools as well. And I will just say that if anyone wants to see copies of the reporter, I did not know this until about 2 months ago when I visited the old jail at the Solano County Historical Society. They have these huge binders that would like go clear across the room here, and they are the copies of the reporter in their actual thing. So if you want to pick a year and get a look at the newspaper from that day you were born or something, you can see what was happening in Vacaville. So a very well-deserved honor.
Councilmember Stockton.
Yes, I really love that this council is passionate about recognizing the heritage of Vacaville and the people that have helped us form our community into what it is today. And I don't think that there are many families, if any, that are as deserving as the Rico family. And so I am really excited to be a part of this as well. So much of my growing up was memorialized in sports articles and different things that were in the reporter. And you connected us. Your family has connected us at a time when we didn't have the internet. And you knew your neighbors right next door, but you couldn't always go across town unless you rode your bike or something like that. But the reporter really connected us, and we got to see what was happening and really celebrate the different things that were happening in town. And I think that still stands true today in what you've established in Merriman on Main and a lot of the nonprofit work that you and your family do. So really excited to be able to honor the Rico family. I'm very grateful for what you have given our community and continue to give our community.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, I won't rehash what everybody's already said. This is a very well-deserved recognition. The big part is like not just how involved your family has been, but how involved you continue to be. I have the benefit of being your representative here on council for District 5, and how involved, especially Lisa, is still with the community, where if there's a question about something, she doesn't hesitate to reach out. And yeah, being on council, I really appreciate community members that are involved, because as sometimes we're here a long time with community engagement from items from the floor, but that's what we want. I want community engagement. I want more community engagement, and the newspaper does that and has always done that. Hopefully we'll continue to do that, but also how much your family itself is involved in being active within the community. So thank you.
And Lisa, I'm sorry that Richard couldn't stay here, but thank you on the entire family's behalf. Personally want to thank you. Together, you and the whole family, I'm trying to come to terms with what the words really mean and how to express it, but you're iconic. The Rico family is iconic and very philanthropic. The giving, anyone who is near you and Richard and the entire family, you only know how to give. You only know how to express yourself on trying to make Vacaville the greatest place ever. And all I can say is my experience in working with everyone, especially through Merriman on Main, is you could see the heart and the soul and the passion that really makes Vacaville thrive. And it's because of the Rico family and all of your efforts and Richard's efforts. The Rico family is a hero to our community in so many ways. We hear of legacy and heritage. Giving all these words, we're just grateful that we can say them here. I'm grateful that Councilmember Chapman brought this forward when you did. It's so deserving. We need to recognize what that meeting place is. And I forever was saddened the day of the last writing of the At Ease. I've read that, and it's like, who writes like that except a Rico? And I have the fondest memories over the years of all that the Rico family represents. And so I'm forever grateful. I really am. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask Councilmember Chapman to make the motion.
Thank you. And I appreciate my colleagues' willingness and understanding and belief and just being knowledgeable of the contributions that the Rico family made to the city of Vacaville. Now, I'm going to let you know, some tears are going to be flowing because I won't be able to hold them back. The Rico family, Richard Rico, I came here to this area in 1979. My husband was in the Air Force, and we decided to buy a home here in Vacaville. I tell you, Vacaville was not a very, was not a very friendly place to everybody back then. However, I had people that supported me in ways that I would never have dreamt. I was an unknown when I decided to run for the school district, an unknown in the community, but I was asked if I would run. I hadn't the slightest idea what I was doing. But one thing about my experience is that the newspaper was fair. They were fair to all the candidates. I attended the forums, I was interviewed, and all I could say is one after another came out to support me. And I know that the paper, Richard and his staff, made a difference in my life, in my success, in my civic engagement. Not only from that day, but up until the time he sold the paper and moved on. Richard was still attending meetings and gatherings and taking notes, and he would write about it. He would travel all over the county and beyond. And I would see him often at those locations. I, as a Black person, I saw change coming about here in Vacaville. And I'm going to let you know we have a long way to go. Vacaville does not have the best reputation as being friendly. But people are noticing that we are more diverse today. But we have a long way to go with true acceptance. True acceptance. I met with Erin yesterday, the day before. I had to reschedule 3 times with her. Y'all bear with me with this. I had to reschedule my meeting with Erin 2 times, and I said the 3rd time's a charm and almost missed it. But anyway, our discussion, the conversation that took place, we were confirming each other. She was an outsider coming in and knowing what it was like. And I'm speaking, but we spoke from the heart about Vacaville and about our love for Vacaville and the changes that are taking place, the tough discussions that we're having. I know it's not even easy for all of us, but we, as a diverse council, we found a way to work for the betterment of Vacaville. We're all keeping the people at the forefront. the needs of the people. And when you talk about the needs of the people in democracy, that's what it's about. You want that for the community. You know, I am just so thankful, but I have to give it to the Rico family. And it wasn't only Richard, but even Lisa. I didn't meet Lisa through Richard. She was working with one of the board members on a nonprofit that I was the executive director of. Very intelligent, bright, graphic individual. And I could go on and on. But anyway, I want to thank each of you for supporting me with this honor that we're bestowing on the Rico family. They are so deserving. So with that, I would like to move for the approval of naming the city-owned property for the Rico family.
So your motion is seconded by Vice Mayor Ritchie. All in favor? Aye. Thank you so much, and please convey our heartfelt gratitude in person, even though he couldn't be here. So looking forward to this memorial and monument and all that the Rico family means to this community.
Ask one question before you move on. Can I ask what is the next step?
You can probably explain it.
So I've been working with Public Works staff. After identifying the location, the sign company has been notified as well. We do have in-house staff that is designing the said plaque. Once we receive the proof, I will share it with yourself, Councilmember Chapman, and the Rico family so they can review it. And then upon that, we'll be working on building the webpage that will be found on our city website, where they can find all the information and all the great things that the Rico family has created for the city of Vacaville. But I believe Merriman on Main, we do have an upcoming unveiling prior to the tree lighting. Do I stand correct?
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure. So that has been confirmed. There you go. Thank you.
I appreciate all the work you've done on it, and again,
yes,
our heartfelt congratulations on this well-achieved award and permanent recognition from our city and all of us to true leaders of the community. So thank you. All right, we will move on now to reports of the city manager. Do we have any tonight?
Yes, Mayor, I have two events I'd like to highlight tonight. I think Corey will put them up on the screen. The first one, our Fire Marshal Jill Childers mentioned earlier. This Saturday is our Let's Make a Difference Neighborhood Cleanup Day. This one will take place on Normandy Drive. I invite everyone from the community to come out and take part. You can register in advance, but you can also register the day of. It's a great morning. We work really hard, kind of supporting our neighbors and lifting them up. And it's also a lot of fun and a great way to connect with the community. So that is this Saturday. And then the second event I'd like to mention is National Night Out on Tuesday, October 1st. Again, I encourage the community to get out and meet their neighbors, attend block parties in their own neighborhoods, and if there aren't any, or if they're not sure about what's going on in their own neighborhood, they can come to Andrews Park, and we are having a community party there. So I encourage everybody to come out and enjoy National Night Out on Tuesday, October 1st.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll move on to reports of the City Council. We do have one action item tonight, which is the direction on Cal City's 2024 resolution packet that was provided to us individually, and I do believe we have, there is a support letter requesting City Council approval to apply, oh, not sorry. This is in response to Councilmember Wiley. You will be our representative at League of Cities in a voting environment when this will come to a vote. So there is an action item. They don't always have an action item every year in advance. And so this is a time for any comments or discussion on supporting that which is the one item, and it's really holding the state accountable the same way that the state is holding cities accountable. And I'm going to ask our city attorney, do you have, I mean, have you had a chance to review this at all?
No, Mr. Mayor, we have not reviewed that. This from our office.
Because it's not your business, I just wanted to know if you did. But there are other cities that, in addition to an action item of directing our representative to vote, there's other cities that actually collectively, as a council, requested that. I'm not saying that that's what we're doing, but at least for
It does
tonight.
appear that other cities have made that request.
All right. Any comments from the council? I mean, I'm in support of, I'm in support of it just because I'm tired of the state giving directives to cities and not following their own rules. And so they give several examples and items of it. So, right. Vice Mayor Ritchie, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I wish I could have spoken for Rico. Well, my voice was but a few cigs of water. But yeah, I read this and it's just, you're right, level the playing field. We talk a lot about local control, and I'm like, come on, man. The city councils all over California, the county supervisors, we do an amazing job to make sure our communities, our counties are safe, we do the best job possible. But it's like starting a race 20 yards back on the starting blocks if assembly members and senators don't play by the same rules we have to. So we work really hard to make sure the public knows where money comes from, and we have the best interest in mind. But if they are able to take enormous amounts of money from developers or certain parties and they have no limitations, but we do, no wonder we see a very heavy top-down of laws and regulations getting passed. And so I understand they're taking the path of least resistance. Why not fund and go for mandates that they get approved at state level instead of go all 58 counties? So I really am passionate about the fact of making sure that it's a level playing field. And the Brown Act, I mean, myself, we can't talk to more than 2 people. There's 40 senators in, I don't know how many.
We're in a caucus and we can't even.
Yeah, so there's 40 senators and I think it was 70 assembly members, and they can all get together and before the strike of the gavel, have a consensus of where the vote's gonna go. But we can't talk to more than 2 people. It's not a fair game. So I'm very much in support of this. I stand behind other cities are stepping up.
I guess the question is anyone on the council opposed to a vote of support of this at the conference for Councilmember Wiley? Councilmember Wiley?
I would just say that it was interesting to read the information and to see the differences. And I do think there are certain differences between, city council and state legislators, but it was pretty stark to read some of the things that applied to us because of their action. So I will vote however the majority of the council directs me to vote.
Okay. So with that, it'd probably be easier to a quick, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, so I think you have your voting directive. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the charge of attending that final day. I don't know what else they might bring up, and so sometimes, rarely there might be something, but usually they're going to do it in advance, so thank you very much. With that, I'm going to seek any other reports of the City Council. I'm just going to start really quick and just say thank you for most of my colleagues attending the Prisoner of War Missing in Action ceremony that was held this last week. It's always to honor those, and it's well attended, and it's just amazing to hear the stories of those who then are being honored only to do what they do best, and that is defer from themselves to honor those who they believe are real heroes. And that's the reason why I'm wearing the pin tonight. So, and with that, I'll just make one announcement, and that is today there was planning for an event that's October 12th and 13th, which is it's the Wild West event here in Vacaville, 2-day event. There's a lot of festivities, and hopefully that's also going to be on our website. It will certainly be on Visit Vacaville and Downtown Business. So a lot of activities. So with that, I will go to Councilmember Stockton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While we're talking about local control, and the Rico family and the reporter put out an article about NextEra putting out going to 205 notification on their battery storage facility. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that this is another loss of local control that we're experiencing and being regulated by an unelected, appointed government bureau, I guess. Despite this council's really great efforts at trying to make sure that we move forward with battery energy storage systems responsibly and utilizing safe technologies, I'm just disappointed that that this group is not allowing us to do our due diligence to make sure that we're doing things at the best interest of and at the safety of our community. So I appreciate the council's unanimous support to try to rectify some of those things, but wanted to make sure that everyone knows that we're paying attention to see what happens with that, and hopeful that because we're working on establishing guidelines that meet, kind of the expectations of our community and the safety standards that we expect, that board will still hopefully kick it back to us to make that final decision. There was a lot of things that happened this weekend. You mentioned the POW MIA ceremony. That was remarkable to attend. The guest speaker did a great job and is a very well-known individual who survived a pretty terrible experience. But like Mike Little said, he spent most of his time talking about the people he was with that didn't make it home to their families. And I just thought that it demonstrated just true class and heroics. So to listen to him talk about that was very powerful. The community came out on Saturday to Field of Dreams fundraiser for mental health for first responders. Just wanted to thank everybody that attended. Jason Roberts donated something. I mean, so many people were just absolutely supportive of that, and I wanted to thank Jason publicly for supporting that. And we raised a significant amount of money to help first responders and their families get mental health services that they need to continue to serve our communities. And then on Sunday there was 11 gala and raised some essential funding to support some kids in some areas that could use some help and after school care. And it was just really exciting to be a part of that. The Field of Dreams event was held at Cool Patch Pumpkins in Dixon, and I really want to give them a shout out. This year, they have a world famous corn maze over there in rural Dixon, unincorporated Solano County, rural Dixon. And this year, their corn maze, which is like the largest corn maze, it's a Guinness Book of World Record corn maze, they put fallen officer Matt Bowen's patch in the corn maze. And I just wanted to say thank you to them, and thank you for Solano County and for our community for continuing to honor him. There's a beautiful billboard that was put up on Interstate 80. I'm so proud to live here, and I'm so proud to be around people who really just care about those that serve our community. So I wanted to say that publicly. Tomorrow is my dad's birthday. I wanted to wish him a happy birthday. He watches every council meeting. He's usually here. He's not here, but I wanted to say happy birthday, Dad. And then I just had a couple more things. Yes, Water Professionals Appreciation Week. I had the opportunity to pop in at a briefing with our utilities department, and we have some just absolutely incredible people in our utilities department that are, like a lot of different departments in the city, are understaffed, overworked, and are constantly given 110% with everything that they do. I just wanted to thank Justin, and I wanted you to just tell your folks how much we appreciate them. I know that they're doing everything that they can. I know that they need help, and I know that our council is interested in learning more about everything that you do, how we can continue to support your department, fill in some of those gaps so that they can keep the good water flowing in and the bad water flowing to get turned into mango materials or something cool. So I just wanted to extend my thanks to them for allowing me to pop in. And then let's see. Oh, and then the last thing was I was just wondering, I know I've been on everybody about the fleet. I'm wondering if they have put out the job announcement yet for the fire mechanic. Has that happened yet? No? Do we know when that might happen, when we anticipate that to happen? Okay, I also had an opportunity to pop in on the mechanics. I'm just curious, how many people are actually turning a wrench? Like, how many mechanics do we have working on vehicles? Do we know that? 3 people right now? And then how many people are supposed to be there?
Yeah, well, you can.
Okay, so we're just missing the one position that needs to open. Okay, I would just love to be updated when that position gets announced. I'm gonna share it on my social media and try to get somebody good in there, but I popped in on them, and the folks that I spoke to just had an absolutely great attitude. They were all working together, trying to get things done. And so I wanted to thank Brian for your attention, to trying to help us keep all of our fleet moving. I appreciate you very much, and that's all I have.
Yeah, Vice Mayor Ritchie.
Okay, I'm gonna try my voice. Sometimes the air makes it really hard. First and foremost, I really missed, I would like to have said a nice comment about the Brigo family, but you guys did a great job, and I had to just, it wouldn't have worked out too well. It would sound pretty bad. But I was not able to attend both those events, and those are amazing events. If you have the opportunity, the Field of Dreams event is pretty awesome. It really shows the community coming together, and the 11 event, it's always fun to get dressed up and really support the community. I was not there because I was, my little baby, my daughter had her birthday. So I was at my own house, and her birthday's actually today, so I'm hoping we get done fast so I can see her before she goes to sleep. And that's, but it was amazing. I called Roy to tell him, as much I want to be there, show support for the community. The most important thing for myself is to be a good dad. And so I had 12 kids running my house. It was a mess. Yeah, we had a nail station, eyelash station. It was all over the top. I was emotionally drained watching 12 little girls run around, keeping everybody fun and safe. But, reading this packet, it reminded me of, I knew it was a yes. As soon as I walked in, it was a yes, the Ricos. But it also, just full disclosure, it made me think about another name. And you mentioned the name, Matt Bowen. I still remember driving back from CFJ Stockton after a presentation, and I rolled over the freeway and see what happened. And I didn't ask for permission. I just walked under the ropes, and it was a situation. It was something. It was horrible. But the moment that happened, I just want to be supportive. And I know we don't talk about it a lot, but it's still very dear to our hearts. And I will be coming back to council when we get that urban reserve and go forward in D2. I want to make sure that there is a main street or something prominent in my district to make sure we remember Matt Bowen. I've also really wanted to find a way to use my district dollars to find a way to memorialize Matt Bowen and officers that have fallen. He's a first, and I want to find a way to, I know the cost, but I want to start the flame and start the process of getting a memorial for Matt Bowen, so people can come and see a person that's made this ultimate sacrifice in Vacaville. So sorry my voice, but it's really important to me, and I know it's not a now, but it's something that I want to put on everybody's radar. I'm going to be working towards finding a way. I know we're in a certain situation in a fiscal deficit, but we're going to make it work. I just want to start that process now. Thank you.
Councilmember Wiley.
I'll just say that I did attend the POW MIA ceremony, and it was very moving. And I also had a field trip with Councilmember Chapman and Captain Poland and Lieutenant Dahl. We went to Elk Grove to see the Arctic, or the Real-Time Information Center that's up and running in Elk Grove. And it was very interesting. And in Vacaville, we have approved that. We have that grant, and work is being done, and the station now to have that space. So that if you ever get an opportunity, it was worth the trip to see how it was working in Elk Grove. So I appreciated that opportunity. And this week on Thursday, if anyone is interested It is the final farewell to the KC-10s. They've been at Travis Air Force Base for a long time, and we're transitioning out. So at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning, the final farewell for the KC-10s in Hangar 42 or 46. So I plan to attend, and it's just a transition for a lot of changes that are going on there. So those are my comments.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember Roberts.
Yeah, as it was brought off of recognition to fallen service members, I just wanted to bring up something that happened the other day. West Sacramento Fire Department lost somebody during training the other day. One of their fire engineers, Tim Hall, I believe, was with the department for 18 years. I know we got tons of support from all the surrounding areas when we lost our public safety officers, and I just wanted to recognize that West Sacramento recently lost somebody as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chapman.
Thank you. A few items. Councilwoman Wiley had mentioned the KC-10 farewell ceremony and our trip to Sacramento.
She's listed everything that you, so there's evidence.
Asterisks. Okay. I will mention that the dog park is open on Alamo Drive next to Mariposa Center. I'm laughing because I'm looking at Georgianne because it was just a thought. You know how we name things, but Georgianne says that the dog park is part of the Mariposa Center. So I'm not going to ask about naming the dog park about a fallen canine. I thought it would be a great idea. So, but because, it would have to go through the same process. I'm not going to put that out there. But just think about that. Wouldn't it have been great? You know, we have canines working with our officers, and they work hard. So we, just put it. Anyway, let me keep going. We have the election coming up in November. And so I was at a meeting yesterday, and they're encouraging people to wear yellow on Tuesdays. Tuesday is election day, and what does yellow stand for? Your absentee ballots. It's just reminding people to vote, So I don't think that's inappropriate for me to make mention of that, right? Okay, so I want to see everyone in yellow. We want to encourage people to get out and vote. You don't have any yellow?
Oh, I do.
You have a wallet.
That's green.
You can go buy some yellow. Okay, and the other thing was Officer Dahl. He's retiring, and I believe his ceremony is coming up this week as well. And then Carmen. Carmen is production. It's going to take place, I guess I should have checked out the date.
This weekend.
Is it this weekend?
This weekend.
Yes. So if you don't have anything to do, you may want to check that out.
Where can they go online to get the information?
Probably visit
VPAT.
VPAT.
Pat.net.
Okay, vpad.net and check it out. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to closed session. There's 5 items on here. One is A is a discussion with real property negotiator. There's 3 items that are either existing, initiating, or anticipated litigation, and then a discussion on the public employee performance evaluation for our city manager and city attorney. And with that, I'm going to open up to the public if anyone wishes to make a comment on any of those items.
And where the claimant is PG&E, is that the only claimant, or is there anybody else on that anticipated litigation?
So I'll turn that over to you.
If there is somebody else, can you disclose it?
That is the only claimant.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Anyone else wishing to comment on any item A through E on closed session? I don't anticipate there to be any report out tonight. So with that, we're going to adjourn this meeting. Good night, Vacaville.